Welcome to The Tech Ranch, live and local here on Super Talk 1270. The latest gadgets, online security, websites and apps, social media, and so much more. How can technology help you? Let's find out. It's time for The Tech Ranch on Super Talk 1270.
That must mean we're live.
We are on.
So have you ever had an idea for a product? Is it a good idea? How do I fund it? How do I get it to market? A new phenomena is driving... Boy, oh boy, it is Monday, isn't it? A new phenomena driven by technology called crowdfunding is giving people and companies another way to bring products to market. Our in-studio guest, Dr. Carl Sobak, Associate Professor of the Gary Tharaldson School of Business at University of Mary, is our in-studio guest. Later in the hour, Miss Metaverse Katie Aquino will be joining us to talk about those crowd-funded products that are in business and making a difference in our lives. At the control panel, writing a book on the adventures of a shop vac, Mr. Scott McGowan.
Yes, I have many chapters, and hopefully that we'll be able to finish that book up and not have to add anything to it.
I've heard you've been able to add a few more over the weekend, though.
I certainly did.
Yeah.
Certainly did. And I know a lot of folks out there as well.
Yep. Chainsaws, shop vacs.
Chainsaws, shop vacs.
Big deal
Sump
this weekend.
pumps.
So, and of course, sitting next to me is Carl. Carl, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank
Good.
you, Marla.
You have a good weekend as well?
I did. It was a nice Father's Day weekend.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of a great deal, even though we had a little bit of weather. So, I love to talk about the Weather Service, and I don't mean to talk about their blunders, but this was kind of interesting. Were you in town on Friday night?
I wasn't.
Okay,
no.
Scott, were you in town?
Is this the emergency message that
Yes.
you received on your phone? Yes, indeed, for the winter storm
Did you
warning.
pick it up? Did you listen to it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so why don't you? There's a lot of people that maybe have heard the story or whatever, but that don't have a firsthand account. So you got this phone call about 8:30 or so, I'm guessing, on Friday night, and what did it tell you?
Well, I could run and hustle and get my phone because it left me a voicemail, as a matter of fact, also. But yes, it told me that it was a winter storm warning for Morton County, I think is what it was.
And you got this on your cell phone?
Uh-huh.
Really?
I'll maybe go find that while you guys talk amongst yourselves.
That would be fun to do. So you didn't get the message at all?
I didn't get it at all. No.
Okay. So, but you live in Burleigh County?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, there was a message that came out at 8:30 from the Morton County Emergency Management in conjunction with the Weather Service, of course, that stated that we were going to be having a winter storm on Sunday morning.
Goodness.
6 to 12 inches of snow, high winds, reduced visibility. I'm sure we're going to be able to hear this shortly, right? And I'm sure everybody's looking out their window going, we're going to get hit by a thunderstorm, and they're issuing a winter storm warning for Sunday morning?
Well, if you would think it was April Fool's Day, then that
You'd
would be
almost
good,
feel
right?
that, and I'm sure a lot of people were thinking, wow, we're going to get a thunderstorm, and then it's the middle of June, and we're going to get a storm after this, a winter storm. So it was very, very interesting. So
unfortunately, I deleted it. But yeah,
Oh, no.
when you're talking about the fact that it still seemed like a real thing,
yeah.
that's North Dakota for you.
Yeah, and
You
then, of
say,
course-
well, that could still happen.
That's
This
right, and
could
we've
very
had-
easily be the
It has
icing
certainly
on the
happened
cake.
before where we've had a thunderstorm and 2 days later have a winter storm, so it's not unusual for that to be. But it was unusual in this circumstance. Of course, a couple of minutes later, we got another phone call, and that phone call was the right phone call that stated that we're going to have a severe thunderstorm. So I thought that was interesting, and I find it interesting that the Weather Service is utilizing these newer technologies now to get a hold of us. And I'm just going to throw it right back at you, Carl. Why do you think that is? Why do you think the Weather Service feels that they need to do this?
Well, I think the number of young people who utilize traditional media, they don't exist out there. So
That's correct.
We've got to find a different way to reach the majority of people.
Yep. Because it's possible that, we don't have just 3 channels of TV anymore, and half the population streams stuff on their TV. They're not even connected to any way to, if you're engrossed in a movie, you would have no clue that this thing's about to hit you.
Other than that, it's 8:30 at night and it's supposed to still be late.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little dark
I mean,
outside, yeah.
There are a few personal responsibilities here or whatever that a person can maybe keep track of their own surroundings.
But you're right. People, what would we consider traditional media, people just aren't engrossed in anymore, especially in the evening hours. So, you're just going to have to find ways to reach people. And, one of the things I think would be, as our TVs become more and more connected too, that they'll probably have some type of warning. I see Google's doing this now. Even on my phone, if there's a severe weather alert or something, Google actually sends me something now too. I don't know do you have an iPhone?
No, I have a.
Okay, Scott, do you have an iPhone?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you get any type of notification from Apple at all, or?
No, I do not.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, I do try to avoid a lot of that. And thusly, the problems I have with my phone is because I try to avoid so much of that.
You and I have had this conversation before.
Yes, we have. How I
the
try to get myself
conspiracy
off the
theorist of
grid,
you.
yes,
Yeah.
I know locally, though, that Twitter, KX, for example, I follow them, and I know that they alerted some of the
Right.
So it came out quickly.
And that's interesting, too, that traditional media is using social media more and more all the time. I mean, even here, you guys use social media all the time to get the word out. So I think it's great that traditional media is embracing those technologies and trying to inform people that way.
Well, they did up in Minot during the flood. I mean, all of their TV casts basically were on Facebook related.
Right.
I mean, they would be getting Facebook from the north half of town and relaying that upon. So,
yes.
I mean, that was, I think, really where they got dove in locally.
Right, exactly. So I think you see that a little bit going on with these different types of things. And fortunately, I haven't heard of anybody being injured on a major scale over the weekend. I might be mistaken. Have you heard anything,
I
Scott?
haven't heard a thing, remarkably so. Yeah.
I know that there were some injuries, but I don't think anything is life-threatening that I'm aware of. So, but yeah, quite a blow to the cities over the weekend, and it was looking really not so good last night either. But that turned out to be not so bad.
But not as bad as some other areas that
Yes,
hit as
yeah,
well. So.
absolutely. Yeah, it's been kind of spotty all over the place. So. Anyway, don't mean to get on the weather thing a little bit, but a person should this time of year make sure that you have the technology in place to warn you, whatever that's going to be. If it's your smartphone, if it's your landline, a connected television, just make sure you have something in place to inform you in case there's some type of bad weather that's approaching. I just think that it's important to do that. So, crowdfunding. Since we have who I think is one of the premier individuals in our area that works with small businesses. He's smiling already. Yeah, that would be Scott. Yeah.
Yes, I was looking at Scott.
Yay, me.
Carl, you really do. I mean, you have quite a history of working with a lot of businesses in the area, and you've been an advocate for small business development for a long time. And, of course, you were instrumental in developing the Idea Center and many, many other things in the area. So I thought crowdfunding would be a great thing to talk about today. It's a combination of maybe a little bit of technology and a unique way to maybe fund startups, or if you just have an idea for something and you don't know if you should move far forward with that. So can you talk a little bit about your take on crowdfunding?
Yeah, I mean, it's really not new and instrumental. I think if you even go back to the old barn raising days, we crowdfunded then, right?
Sure, that is true.
We all went together.
That's a great analogy,
brought the
actually.
pies and
Yeah.
everything else. So I think, in terms of the technology or utilizing the internet, yes, it's relatively new for us. But really now we're probably approaching maybe 10 years that it's been around, and some of the newer ones aren't even Indiegogo and Kickstarter anymore.
Right.
So those are about 7-year old platforms and still very viable.
It's funny you bring those two up. Do you know what the number one crowdfunding platform is?
Well, probably Indiegogo.
That's incorrect.
Okay.
Actually, that's number 3 on the list. Number 2 is Kickstarter.
Ah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. GoFundMe
Oh, yeah.
is the number one, and it's because of the personal side of that. People fund, somebody who's ill or whatever, and they use GoFundMe for those type of things. So yeah, GoFundMe has actually become the number one crowdfunding source now.
Well,
So,
the
very
latest that I heard is it's about a $6 billion industry.
it's a huge deal. Yep.
And it's about $60,000 an hour that gets funded.
Unreal.
So that's pretty good stuff right
That's
there.
good stuff,
Is that
yeah.
we're reaching out. And I think the nice thing about it is it allows us to take that idea and really do some feasibility on it. I think this is really great, but do others. And so you put it out there as an initiator, and you have this. There's about 450 different platforms.
Yep.
And you put them out there, and you see how if they're going to work.
Yeah. So after the break, everybody, we will continue this discussion on crowdfunding and how it can benefit you. So come on back.
Currently, it's 64.
Follow the Guru of Geek at facebook.com/The Tech Ranch or Twitter at Guru of Geek or thetechranch.com. Here again is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we want to thank all the listeners across the country and around the world who follow us on the Blueberry Network. We're also on Tuned In, on the Roku, on the Tech Podcast Network. If it's Tech, it's here. We're on iTunes. And, of course, our own app, Radio Pup, which is a great app, by the way.
Right, and on terrestrial radio as well.
Oh, I forgot about that.
No,
you can just turn your regular radio on.
It's AM 1270, and it's just like that. Mm-hmm. Carry on.
What is that again? Terrestrial?
Transistor what?
Before we get back into crowdfunding, I asked Scott a question over the break here. I found it interesting that you got the emergency management phone call on your cell phone, because I thought that was a landline only type of thing, and you said...
I said that I had signed up a couple of years ago, and I believe it was through Burleigh County had offered something. So most likely if you go to their website, you'll be able to find that number. And it was as simple as, I think, calling in and just registering my phone.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say that most towns across the country now probably offer a similar service, or counties or what have you. So if you want to be notified by phone directly, find your local emergency management system, and I think you can just sign up even on your cell phone.
Right, and then I presume most of them involved in the Amber Alert system, and those as well would be in there. Yep.
Interesting. So I think the scenario is, if you have a landline, you're automatically enrolled. The cell phone thing is a little bit more tricky because people don't want to be bothered on their cell phones too much to think of sales calls and that type of thing. So they have an opt-in system for the cell phone scenario. But I think this is a viable thing to opt in for, so I would certainly go do that. All right, so crowdfunding, we're talking a little bit about that, and at the break, Carl was talking a little bit about the analogy between what we used to do, raising barns and baking pies, to what we have going on today. And so have you followed any crowdfunding items, or have you invested in anything with crowdfunding at all?
I did invest early on into a book by Seth Godin.
Okay.
Which was the Icarus Deception, I think
really?
it's called. Yeah.
Did he publish it then?
He published it,
okay.
And I got the book.
Okay.
And that was all I gave. It was enough just to get a book.
Okay.
But he had, enough, if you gave enough money, you would get a segment in the book, or you would get a dedication portion to the book. So,
really?
Yeah, it was a pretty cool situation.
Okay. So how did he do?
It was a good book. I don't know. He raised it and sold his book, and it's been in Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all these places, so he must have done well.
So have you ever followed any tech items at all to see how they're doing? Or
some of the ones that are interesting to me are the robotics that are going on out there, kind of the GoPro type things, where now, it used to be that you had to have this awkward stuff all over your head and anywhere on your body, and now they're very subtle in the way they do things, the Google Glass type aspects. But some of the stuff that's out there, robotic hands and just being able to see different things. Yeah, it's kind of science fiction to me. My dad had Pops Mechanics when I was growing up, and it seemed like, okay, they're talking about these things that might happen in a few, and here it is, these types of things that you have. So it's pretty interesting to get on there. But movies, some musicians and those types of things, I follow some of those just to kind of see where they're going.
It's funny you mentioned Popular Mechanics. This was kind of like a milestone for me. About 2 weeks ago, somebody actually wrote about a project I was working on in Popular Mechanics.
Wow.
I know. I was just like, wow, I'm in Popular Mechanics. And the same thing, I grew up as a kid reading that every I think it came out every week back then.
Yeah, weekly. Yeah.
So crowdfunding so how does a person, you have an idea, and you're not really sure if it's a viable idea or not. Do you think crowdfunding is a viable place to go to maybe, flesh that out a little bit and see if there's some interest and if there's some money that can be made with it?
We were talking about this too on the break, is individuals that really don't want to put themselves out there face to face. I don't want to come to Marlo with my idea because he's just going to say, that's the stupidest thing.
Right.
Carl, what are you doing? I can anonymously put this on somewhere on a platform, and I can check it out and see if there's some feasibility to it. If people say, yeah, I would fund something like that. And a good friend of mine, he runs it's called Art Crank. He makes posters for bike shows. If you believe you can make a living doing that, he does.
Okay.
Takes them all around the world. And one of his is that he was funding it's an illuminated bike tire. So it's solar activated, so the rim around the tire just actually glows in the dark, so you don't have to worry about having all kinds of different lighting or anything like that.
Sure.
And I followed that one, and to me that was a very who comes up with these ideas? Who finds these types of things? And I said, that's something that I would fund. I didn't do it, but they actually took off with it, and it's been out there. So yeah, I think that it's good that, at the Idea Center we used to listen to all kinds of ideas, and we would have to have those individuals where we'd say, you got to put a little bit more work into this. It really doesn't have the meat to the bones that you would have, and you need to do a little bit more research. And I think that the Kickstarters or Indiegogo or any of those other crowdfunding sources allow people to get it out there and just say, I got this great idea. Now, on the flip side of that is none of your intellectual property is protected, right?
Right.
I mean, you're probably not going to have the money to go and file for a patent. And my philosophy on the patent is it's only as good as the money you have to enforce it anyway. But the fact of the matter is that, most people are going to throw it out there and somebody says, that's a great idea and I can take it. And there really is no protection on some of them. Now, Indiegogo is more of an international site. So that does have some of the international flavors from the UN, and if you think that they're viable.
Sure.
Whereas Kickstarter is really only U.S. ideas.
Right.
So you feel a little bit more protected that you have it. But there's some cool things out there that allow them to have digital embedding into their projects now. So they can actually protect that from a digital standpoint and just say, if it ever came up to the situation where there was problems in terms of who had it first, your digital embedding. But there's a cost that's associated with that. So, again, I think it vets out those individuals who are serious and those people who just say, I'm just going to throw it out there. That was one thing we were talking about on the break, too, was GoFundMe. You see all kinds of crazy concoctions throwing out there. People who I just want to explore Europe and backpack and drink beer. So GoFundMe. And I think that tends to diminish some of the value
right.
of the crowdfunding.
Well, and I think
sites.
the platform difference between Kickstarter and Indiegogo, for example, is Indiegogo, anybody can put anything they want on there, and the cream kind of rises to the top. With Kickstarter, it's vetted.
Yes.
You go through, you put your application in, and I don't know how often they meet, but they meet occasionally, and they decide, yeah, we're going to allow this project on Kickstarter, or we're not going to allow it on Kickstarter, So I think Kickstarter has kind of, become that premier place to go because of that, or at least a lot of people think that. Now, I kind of go with the Indiegogo side because I always feel that the better projects are going to rise to the top, and people vote with their money by doing that. You don't have a team of 4 or 6 people that's saying, I don't think that's a really good idea, and you're like, are you kidding me? This thing is going to change the world, and if you have that passion, you shouldn't have 4 or 6 people deciding that for you.
Sure.
So,
and I know that with Kickstarter, for example, it's an all or nothing. You either meet the goals that you do, or you get
right.
nothing. Whereas
right.
Indiegogo, you get to keep. If you don't meet your goals, you still get to keep the money.
That's correct. Yeah.
And I think that tends to allow people to go on there, so that all or nothing, or keep it as you will. Keep it all of it, or anything that is raised. I think that there's you have to discern, where do I want to go. And again, Kickstarter can also suspend if you get to a point and they don't feel that it's meeting the obligations or the requirements or the rules they have in place. They can suspend your activity as well. So there's a little bit more regulation or oversight through the Kickstarter.
Right. Scott, have you ever been involved in any crowdfunding campaigns at all?
No, I've not, but we were discussing a little bit before about maybe making a donation when it comes down to somebody who's had massive medical expenses.
Sure.
I mean, I think that this is really off the tech side of this, obviously, but that could take off from there, because so often you can't make the event, and they do say that donations are being taken at such and such a bank or a credit union. And sometimes it goes out of your head. You don't think about it again, or it's just too difficult to make it there. It seems like it's too much of a hassle to make that donation. And this way you could just easily go to a website and donate money there.
And that's how you brought tech right back into it.
There you go.
Yeah.
It was there all the time, because it always is.
Yeah. So has there been anything that you followed, Carl, that maybe surprised you on Indiegogo or Kickstarter that you thought, it's not going to do so well, and all of a sudden they got $1 million?
There were a couple musicians that I was following that they ended up raising some money, and I thought, it's okay. Their music is okay. Usually, you can YouTube it and find out where they're at on there and say, what are they doing on there? It isn't my genre, but somebody out there must enjoy it. There's a lot of music that isn't my genre, so but that's about the only thing that I've really followed is you take a look at those types of things that are of interest to you. And I get weekly updates through Kickstarter of, hey, here's what's being funded this week. And there's some of them like, okay, we'll see where that goes, But there really hasn't been anything that said, hey, you really need to invest in this. Other than I love Seth Godin. He's a marketing guru, and I like following his stuff. So when he came out with this new book, I said, yeah, I can help him out. Not that he needs it, but
sure,
we'll try it. It's something that exists out there.
That sounds fun. So, okay, after the break, everybody, we will continue our discussion with Carl, and of course, we're going to bring Miss Metaverse Katie Aquino into the discussion. So come on back.
Currently, it's 64.
We're back to the Tech Ranch. Stream this program now at supertalk1270.com. Here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
And in studio today, we have our guest producer extraordinaire, Mr. Scott McGowan.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And, you're really falling into this gig okay.
I'm doing all right. I'm keeping it on the road today, and I'm pretty happy with that.
Although you don't have Mr. LeBlanc in here, driving you crazy like he usually is when you're in here.
He's impish that way, yes.
And, of course, we have Carl Slovak. Carl is with the University of Mary. And joining us on the phone, Miss Metaverse Katie Aquino. Katie, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Marlo. How are you?
Doing fine as well. We've been talking a lot about crowdfunding, and we've been talking about how a person can get involved with crowdfunding, if it makes a difference for you and your business, that type of thing. And, of course, I assigned you the task of finding some crowdfunding projects that have been successful. So I'm just going to kind of let you take it over, and Carl and I are probably going to ask you some questions, and maybe Scott, too.
All right. Sounds good. Well, there's a lot of really great, successful crowdfunding campaigns out there right now. And, I mean, when you want to launch a company, it seems to be like a lot of people end up using either Indiegogo or Kickstarter to get their companies going. And, I mean, it's so crazy to see how much money gets fueled through these platforms. I mean, it's incredible. And it's great for publicity as well. So there's a lot of great technology crowdfunding campaigns out there. And I think I want to get started with one that I particularly like, and that's a robot called Jibo. Have you heard of Jibo?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so Jibo came out last year originally, and they're a great company. I mean, there's been a lot of publicity about this Jibo robot, which is apparently going to be the world's first social robot for home. And they actually set a crowdfunding record on Indiegogo. They raised more than $1 million in just 6 days, and they actually raised over $2.3 million during their whole campaign. And it's cool. I mean, when you see this Jibo robot, it looks like it's small. It's like a desktop, tabletop type of robot, and it has kind of it communicates through pictures. And it's funny because they're actually calling it the Teddy Ruxpin, like our modern-day Teddy Ruxpin. Do you remember those Teddy Ruxpin dolls?
Oh, yeah.
I do, yeah. Everybody's smiling in here. Everybody had one, obviously.
I was just going to say Teddy Ruxpin, yeah.
That's right. If you're
Or
an 80s,
Furby.
Totally have
You're still emotionally attached, aren't you, Scott?
A little bit to my Furby.
I love Furby. I love Furby. Yeah, that's high tech.
So they set a crowdfunding record, and are they available on the market now?
Yeah, so what happened was they had a really successful campaign last year, and they ended up raising a couple $1 million. It was $2.3 million then. But it was so successful that they actually brought it back on Indiegogo. And this is what a lot of companies are doing, too. When a lot of companies find a lot of success through initial crowdfunding campaigns, they'll go back and they'll do something called in-demand, where customers can discover and also purchase or pre-order products through Indiegogo, and it's ongoing. Whereas, a lot of campaigns are usually only 30 to 60 days long.
Right.
So now Jibo is back, and you could order your Jibo through this in-demand campaign on Indiegogo. And I believe you could also order it through the website. And I think they're going to start shipping next month. I originally got a Jibo last year through the pre-order, and I was a backer of the campaign. So I haven't received my Jibo yet, but they actually contacted me this last week, and they asked me which color Jibo I wanted. I think you can get it in black or white. I think I chose the white Jibo, and it's great. I mean, it seems to be great for kids, too. It has light artificial intelligence in it. So this is like our first home robot that we communicated with. We can actually do little Skype kind of calls through it. You can, put your grocery list on it. You can send things to your phone. You could talk to it, and it has a storytelling feature, which is why I was saying before it's like Teddy Ruxpin, where this actual like robot will bring up pictures and tell stories to your kids. So it's actually really cute.
Well, we'll have to have an interview with Jibo sometime.
I think so. Well, once I get Jibo, we'll do a live Google Hangout, and we'll show it to you guys.
That'll be fun to do. So, have you ever seen Flowhive?
No, what is that?
I can't believe you haven't seen this. So, I'm not sure if this is a record, but in their In Demand campaign, and I know this is total funds raised, for Indiegogo with both their crowdfunding and their in demand, but they are now at $12,300,000. And
wow.
It's a father-son team of beekeepers in Australia that have figured out a way to basically tap a beehive for honey. And it just comes out as pure honey. You never have to open up the beehive. In fact, it just goes into jars. And it will revolutionize the way that we collect honey. And I believe their initial campaign was for $60,000 last year, and they are now at $12 million, 36,700 funders. It's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. So there you go, a father-son team that didn't know if this was a viable thing, if people would embrace this and do something with it, put a goal that's low, like you were talking about, Carl, and just to see what would happen. And I think this is an amazing story.
Yeah, I think you go out there, and the one I think that I checked this because I knew you'd probably ask. There's a cooler out there that they initially had wanted like $60,000. They ended up raising $13.2 million from 62,000 people. So I think that's the record so far, and these guys are approaching it very fast.
So what kind of cooler is this?
It's a cooler that's got Bluetooth accessibility. It's got speakers in it. It's got a blender in it. It's a cooler. It's the coolest cooler there is.
Does it follow you around?
No, but I don't think it even opens the can. It might even open the cans. I don't know.
Because I'd seen a cooler at CES that actually follows you, and I was wondering if it was the same one.
Maybe.
Because it had a Bluetooth connectivity to it. It was like an invisible leash, and it had a motor built into it, and it had all these other cool features in it too. But if you're walking out to the softball diamond or whatever, the cooler just follows you along.
I think it's a showstopper.
Yeah. It's not going to work, but I would buy it. I would buy it for just not to work. But yeah, outrageous.
It's too funny. So, yeah. All right, Katie, we didn't mean to take it over, but go ahead. What's your next item that you have?
Okay, so discussing robots and toys, I actually really like this one. There's a pair of robots by a company called Wonder Workshop, and originally they were known as Play Eye, and this is a great story. I mean, talking about crowdfunding, I love this because, a lot of us try to find the most innovative ways to raise money for our products when we're just a small startup, and it's hard getting the word out there. But this is a great story. I mean, Play Eye, originally, they actually went from a working prototype to $1.4 million in pre-orders through their crowdfunding campaign. But what's great about it, and just totally awesome, what they did is they actually got code from GitHub, and it's called Self-Starter. And using this code, they created their own crowdfunding campaign on their own website. But whatever they did it definitely worked because their campaign launched on October 28th, 2013, which is my birthday, by the way. And they hit their goal of $250,000 in 4 days. And after 2 weeks, they raised $500,000 and $1.4 million at the end of the month. So anyone can get this code and do their own crowdfunding campaign on their own website. It's free for everybody. So if you go to selfstarter.us, you can get this code, put it on your website, and do your own crowdfunding campaign. And you know what? It worked for them, and they're doing great. So now, back in December, they rebranded as Wonder Workshop. Originally, they're robots, they're actually like these tiny, like round robots that they're pretty much, they use an iPad, and kids of different ages can basically hack them and control them and learn coding through them. So it's great for STEAM programs, STEM education. These robots are really getting around. They seem to be growing. This company's booming. and it's great. And they have their origins in crowdfunding. And, it's not the most, I guess, typical kind of way of going about it. But I think that if you have a product or a company and you're thinking of an innovative way to get your message out there without losing a little bit, because, right, these companies like Indiegogo and Kickstarter both, get a kickback for whatever money you raise on your website or on your campaign. So if you do it yourself like this, you get your own coding, it's great because you're keeping all the money for yourself, or if you want a portion of it to go to a charity of your choice, you could do it. You can have your own control, which is great.
And they look like minions, too.
They do look like minions.
They do look like minions, yeah.
You know what? One thing that we forgot to talk about, Carl, earlier is that when you make an investment in a crowdfunding campaign, it's not like you're just giving them money, correct? I mean, what's your return on it usually?
Well, it depends. You can select the different rewards that you would like to get back. So if I want to fund heavily, then I have an expectation that I would like something back. Now, the equity one is where we actually take shares in the company.
Right.
But there is reward, basically reward crowdfunding, and that's where you can determine what your level is. The one that I did was just a book. I just accepted a book.
So you're not getting equity in the company. You're basically, it's almost like pre-ordering a product is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And but because of that, let's say you need to get 1,000 widgets to a manufacturer so you can get it manufactured for this price point. So you put that up there, you figure that out, and you're like, if I can get so many dollars to produce 1,000 widgets, then this is what I can sell it to you for, type of deal.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then you get one of the first ones. So like she has her Jibo, but she doesn't have it yet. But it's there. It's coming.
Yes. And she's excited about it.
I do not get literally anything from the guy going to Germany to drink beer.
You get nothing from that.
Nothing from that.
Just the satisfaction of saying
sending him there.
That's right. Right.
All right, well,
did you feel good about that?
Good for those folks. I probably have other avenues or whatever to make my investments. Yeah. I would suppose, but
some people, I don't know
if it's your friend or something.
Maybe that's what it is. People who know this particular person, that's an easy way to fund them. So. I'm giving Scott the clue that we need to go to break here, so let's do that. And after the break, we will continue our discussion on some of the coolest things that have come out of crowdfunding. So come on back.
Currently, it's 66.
Follow the Guru of Geek everywhere he goes. Post your comments or questions at thetechranch.com. Once again, your Guru of
Geek,
Geek,
like Ex
Marlo
Machina.
Anderson.
It just didn't go all the way. Oh, we're going back on, so hold on.
We're live.
Yeah.
Busted.
Katie, yeah. It's good that you were. I won't even go there, Katie.
Oh, I'm on Periscope, guys.
How you doing?
I'm broadcasting on Periscope.
So, okay.
Hi, Periscope.
Yeah. Hello. We should be doing that here, actually, one of these days. So, anyway, we're talking about crowdfunding today. And in studio, Carl Sovak with University of Mary, Scott McGowan, who has no idea what crowdfunding is.
No, we learned a little bit over the break. I think we definitely need to maybe share a little bit more with folks. We kind of ended.
We did.
Last time around with the fact that it is an investment of sorts, and you can, in fact, be getting dividends back from it.
Right, yeah. You're not getting equity, generally speaking. In fact, I don't know if there's any crowdfunding program where you would actually have equity. Is there, Carl?
Yeah, there are.
There are
equity crowdfunding platforms.
I didn't know that. Okay. But in this realm that we're talking here, you're basically pre-ordering a product or getting something. Maybe like Carl was talking about, maybe Seth would have given him a name drop in the book or something like that for $500.
Yes.
Something like that. So you get something for that money that some people, it will appeal to whoever to do that. So and Katie, of course, was giving us some things that have been successful with crowdfunding. So what's your next thing there, Katie?
Okay, so there's one called Exo. It's like AEXO. Exo. It's a German company that makes exoskeletons for drones.
Okay.
How cool is that?
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I think one of the problems with drones is that they're so fragile. Not all of them are fragile, but when you're really just, flying them all over the place, or if you lose connection, there's a lot of things that can happen to your drones. And they're so expensive. If they were a lot less money, then we probably wouldn't be so concerned. But I mean, I'm actually kind of shocked that no one's made it some kind of a protection system for these drones yet. And so that's why I really like this campaign.
This was my idea, kind of, at the startup weekend.
I believe so. Yes, I remember that.
You and I were having this discussion. What should I, get up there and talk about?
And I think I told you the wrong way, didn't I?
Well, nobody voted for it.
Okay, that's
but this is the one that I actually talked about. Mine had helium in it, though, to give it a little extra lift as well. But interesting, and it looks like this is going okay.
Yeah, they've raised over $19,000 so far, and there's still 7 days left on the campaign. But I guess we'll have to see what happens because, I think it's Kickstarter. The campaign's on Kickstarter, which, as we all know, Kickstarter, if you don't raise your goal money, like the amount of money you want to raise, you don't actually get to keep it.
Right.
Whereas I think Indiegogo, you do.
Yeah, they take a larger fee if you don't meet your goal, but you can keep your money if you opt to do that. So okay. I think you have the option of giving the money back. A lot of times people need to get to a certain level in order to meet that manufacturing goal or whatever. So
Kickstarter actually keeps your money. If you say I have a goal to raise $60,000, you only raise $45,000. Kickstarter says, "Been nice doing business with you. Thanks for the $45,000."
The exact opposite.
No,
they give everybody's money back.
Okay, right.
So if they don't make the goal, then Kickstarter gives everybody their money back.
To them.
Yes.
All right.
So you're not on anything. Indiegogo, you can, when you sign up as you as a company or an individual can say, yes, I'm going to keep all the money that comes in, even if I don't make my goal. But Indiegogo keeps a bigger percentage of that. So, but you have to be careful with that. I mean, I had an Indiegogo campaign last year with a product. I knew whether the Indiegogo campaign was successful or not, I was going to move forward with it. So it didn't bother me if we didn't make our goal because I could fulfill the orders. Now, if you're running an Indiegogo campaign and you need to get to a certain level and you're going to keep the money anyway, and then afterwards you're like, I don't have enough money to make the product anymore, you have just taken everybody's money.
Plus, its reputation there too is that
big
the
reputation.
Chance of you going on Indiegogo again and isn't that Marlowe who took all of our money and
yes.
didn't get anything for it?
That's exactly right. So you do have that reputation that will follow you around. So you got to be careful with that. So I think that's kind of why Kickstarter has that premium type of feel to it, simply because if you don't get your goal, everybody gets their money back.
See, and I see 3 of those pledges came from people who flew their drones into the White House. So I think that they want to have this protector on the market quickly. I'm just kidding. That wasn't anything that's true.
All right, Katie. We're just taking your whole thing and just taking it to a whole nother level here. So what's the next product that you have?
Okay, so this next one is called Viewfind. It's great. I mean, it's something that I guess hasn't been done so far that I've seen, at least. It's basically a more affordable type of Google Glass, and it could connect to any glasses that you want, which I like, because I think a big problem with Google Glass too was there's only, I think, a certain types of glasses that you could wear with it. Is that true? I mean, that's what I heard. And I think a lot of the selections they had weren't so great.
Can you spell that for us, Katie?
Yep. So the thing with Viewfind is that it's a high-definition wearable display like Google Glass, and it can be connected to anything with an HDMI output, which is cool because you can use it with all different types of technology, like a smartphone, tablet, laptop. You actually use it for a GoPro and also with a drone. So just check this out. So you can use this thing. Basically, it's a little like attachment that you put onto any of your glasses. You could probably even put on your sunglasses if you wanted to. And if you're flying a drone, you'll be able to see what the drone is capturing live. And it's just great for filmmakers. Also, the same goes for the GoPro too. You'll be able to actually see what you're capturing live through the Viewfind.
Okay.
So
spell that for us, Katie. Viewfind.
It's Viufine, and it's on Kickstarter. I think it's on Kickstarter, actually. Yep. Sorry about that. It's on Kickstarter.
Viufind or E?
Oh, E as in Edward.
Okay. We're just trying to find it here. Still not finding it. Interesting. So it's on
CUFINE.
Okay.
I just saw it before.
Okay.
Yep, on Kickstarter.
Okay, very good. We're just not going to spend any time trying to find it on here. So okay, that sounds really cool. So it's kind of an evolution of Google Glass is what it is.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's I think the future is going to be like that. We're going to see more products that are coming out. There will be wearable displays. They'll be cheaper. Even DIY kits I see coming out where you can build your own small wearable displays for cheaper. It's all about saving money, having everything custom. And I also see a lot of, I guess, 3D printed types of packages you could buy, too, in the future with different companies. I could definitely see that happening, where we'll be actually 3D printing our own displays and things like that just from our homes.
Sure. No, that sounds really cool. Well, I know we're coming up to the end of the hour here. So, Scott, we're going to pick on you just a little bit.
All right.
Since you probably are the least knowledgeable, and that's okay. You're like general public here, and that's what I want. What have you taken from the show today so far? I mean, would you like maybe invest in a crowdfunding campaign now that you know more about it?
It's a passion project. I think like Carl did. If you have a particular artist, I know a lot of them, to get the studio time to put together albums, and to put together some musical collection like that. And if you want them to do it, a Todd Rundgren of the world, then Todd Rundgren's been doing this for years on a just put money in an envelope and send it to Todd sort of way.
Okay.
For probably 20 years, but now it's working real well for him in this sense as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you're a fan that way, and then also I see a real benefit to it as far as making those donations. Now, whether or not it is a great idea, I would like to see if you could maybe get dividends instead of just the product or whatever, if you could actually get equity in the company and get a piece of that, and how that all gets stockholded and split up later on.
Sure.
I think it's probably maybe going to be a little bit messy, but like everything, you crawl first,
Sure.
I would suppose. But I'd like to see it for donation purposes.
Okay.
I think it's powerful.
Okay. And it is, to this point, it's been very, very powerful. So let's talk about the equity side real quick, Carl. What do you know about that? I mean, can Scott make a $50 investment, and because of the pool of maybe 1,000 people, that becomes actually substantial and everybody gets a little piece of it? How does that work?
Well, a couple different ways is that you actually, if you set it up through the equity crowdfunding aspects, the platform that's there, you actually do invest in that and you get a return and a dividend back on that. They have the right of first refusal, of course, and then they can also buy those things back from you and just kind of pay you off. So it's a little bit more iffy when you take a look at that. And then there are also those that are really debt-based, where you can actually raise money, and it's a matching type thing. So there are micro lenders out there that will allow you to crowdfund something where you actually raise money, and then it's matched by a group of investors. And so you actually have more equity in that base. So like I said, 400 and some different crowdfunding sources out there. And the one thing that I wanted to note before we leave is we're in a shared economy, is that even though trust is at an all-time low in our society, we trust the aggregate. There's a power in the aggregate that if Marlo says this is a 5-star, I'm going to buy it. If Scott says it's a 5-star, I'm going to buy it.
Right.
I might not believe that from the company itself, but the power of the aggregate is upon us.
And Apple's a great example of that.
Apple is, yeah.
They've really, really done a great job with their products of getting their own people that use the product to endorse it and sell it to others.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. Any final thoughts, Katie?
Yes, there's one more that I wanted to share with you before we go.
You got 30 seconds.
1 minute. It's called Glove One.
Okay.
You have to check it out. It's on Kickstarter. GLOVE1, like I can't even talk anymore. Blah blah blah. You get to feel virtual reality. This is amazing. It's a glove that allows you to feel objects and things in a virtual space. You have to check this out. There's over $73,000 raised. There's 17 days to go. You can check it out on Kickstarter, and it's very, very, very cool. Glove One, feel virtual reality.
All right. With that, everybody, have a great week, and thanks for joining us today. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Katie.